Welcome to another one of our soft closing episodes of the garden vlog. Ending the season here. We're gathering up some plants to do like a pretty decent giveaway on the local garden club. I'm probably just going to drop these off in the next week or two to somebody. I think in about 3 weeks they're having their get together, the January get together, and hopefully a lot of people will go home happy. So we got some the grafted sunflower pawpaw, we got a few grafted mulberries, we have rooted cuttings of figs, we have rooted cuttings of mulberries, we'll probably have some longevity spinach, maybe some jewels of opar, maybe some Suriname spinach, Suriname cherries, at least one Mexican cold hardy avocado. I think we got 2 Haas avocado seedlings, probably at least 1 white sapote, probably going to do the polyembryonic or potentially polyembryonic white sapote, so they have a big chance of getting something that's true to the mother plant, probably at least 1 dragon fruit. And somebody's also getting my most prized, the best Sabara Jabota Kaba. I only have 1, and this is the best looking one in the bunch. I did not get it for myself. I put some ones that did not look as good just in the ground, and we got several red hybrid Jabota Kabas to go to a good home hopefully as well. So a lot of people are going to get happy and excited about this. I probably lost the tag to this elderberry, but it could be one of like 3 different ones. This could have been my attempts to do the everbearing and have 2 genetically different ones, or it could be one of my 2015 best. But we might just throw that in and just say random elderberry. This cherry guava we planted earlier in this year, I believe, is looking amazing. It's grown a lot. It's already hit about 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Still looks pretty darn good. I started making this list earlier this year. Could have been 4 or 6 months ago, give or take. And of course, some things changed. We took some things off, like I think I had purple North American sweet potatoes. I just couldn't keep them happy in the pots. As soon as you bring them inside during a little cold snap, they seem to stress out. And some of them die being in the house for a few days, just drying out, getting that dehumidification and stuff, probably from the heaters and stuff going, and air. And I just planted what I had, and hopefully they'll propagate or stay alive, and then we'll have enough material to propagate them again during like spring and summer months, so we can hopefully give some of those guys away if they survive. I also had a bunch of just mulberry seedlings, and I said, well, let's just not do that now. I was not really able to get a lot of potting soil or something. I planned like 6 months ago to get a load or 2, and if I had done at least 2 loads, I probably could have had a bunch of mulberry seedlings from the ground just put in pots to give away. But now I'm going to focus on whatever potting soil I have or have to buy, and potentially using some of these as grafting materials to graft some stuff. I mean, like the cultivar, like Australian green, supposedly it's hard to root. You have to graft it, or maybe it has nematode issues or something in the soil. And there are a few others that I like, Himalayan FSP, I think, or Pakistan, that do not do well with nematodes in Florida. So you put it on a native, some kind of wild seedling that is used to the nematode population in the soil, and it's supposed to do better that way. We also don't have a truck or anything to haul it, the soil in. So if I have the money right now for a truckload of soil and I can't get anybody to do it for weeks or months, then I may repurpose that money for something else before we get a chance to get the soil. So it's it's a variable amount of things that have caused us to not do more propagation and transplanting, from wild seedlings on the ground to pots. But speaking about the Australian green, we had 2 grafts take, and that means one of those grafted mulberries that I'm giving away is going to be an Australian green white. I think it's also called white Pakistan, and has 2 or 3, or King Pakistan or something, King White. Has a variety of names, and so somebody's going to get lucky because I had more than one success. A lot of times I have 1. Sometimes I may have 3 or 4, but we had 2 take, and I'm pretty sure, even though my other graft is small, hopefully, crossing fingers, we will, secure that cultivar on our property. It's already in the ground with a multi-grafted tree, I think with Maui and Lakeland Tropical, and we'll probably graft more to that tree. The other that I had 2 successes with is Blackbird. And that was a cultivar that Fruitwood Nursery was selling. It seems to have disappeared. I don't know anything about it. It's just like randomly we got Scion Wood, earlier this year, last year, whatever it was. And it's one of the 2 are the biggest graft growths, I should say, in a single season that I've ever had. It's like between the graft and the top of the plant right now, it's about 7 foot. So it's probably about 8.5 to 9 foot total. So one season got about 7 foot of growth on it. So I'm pretty sure, unless it gets too fast a growth and just snaps at the graft line or something, that we have that secured in our location. So the other one's going to go to some lucky home, and hopefully this is a decent cultivar. I have no idea. I'm also not giving away any loquat seedlings now. We had such a high failure rate before even trying to graft them, just plucking them out of the soil and getting them to survive, for more than 3 or 4 months in a pot. Some of them survived and thrived, but a lot of them just didn't. So, obviously we are stressing them out by plucking them out. Maybe we have to dig them out and be a little bit more, finesse those hair roots or whatever. I'm not sure what the trick is, because people plant them, out in the ground somewhere and pluck them out or dig them up to graft, including like Oliver Moore, which is a decent, somewhat local nursery here that grafts tons of loquats every year. And he obviously has to have successes, or a big success rate of keeping them alive and having successful grafts, and I guarantee you he's not just putting every seed in a gallon or 3-gallon pot. It has to be out in the ground somewhere. So whatever loquats we have in the pots are probably used for grafting. It could be used we may try some medlars, or a combination of loquats and medlars, and we may do medlar on hawthorn as well for maybe the beginning of next season, next year, January. I'm sort of looking around my yard to see if I have any black cherry seedlings just pop up randomly, to potentially try to do Capulan cherry grafts on them. The one I had in the pot, in the bucket, I think it died just in the drought. Just couldn't keep it moist enough. I've had a lot of bad luck trying to transplant them as well. But if we found one in a more ideal location that was already in the ground, that would be nice, and just put a graft on it, or a couple grafts, and see if it would take. Just to have some, Capulan cherries, I guess, are similar, very closely related to the black cherries. Some of them have some astringency or bitterness to them, but they're much bigger actual cherries versus the little tiny black cherries. Well, I went all around my property trying to find a live version of this black cherry, and I could not find any. That doesn't mean there's not some here. There used to be a small but mature tree that was on the other side of our back fence that kind of dropped cherries sometimes over on our side, and squirrels, birds probably ate them, and they dropped them off on our sweet gums or something, and they randomly would sprout like this guy here. There may be a tinge of green down there, but even if this guy survives, we can't do anything with it this year as far as grafting. But if it comes back out, I'll try to find a suitable spot to plant it in the ground and see if it takes off, and then maybe graft it next year or the following year. If not, I guess this is going to be on hold anyway. We can't just go graft something to what's potentially dying. So, yeah, maybe 2027 will be a year to do this with. Who knows? If you watched our last video that we uploaded that was supposed to be a short video that turned out to be like 25 minutes, I can't remember, after editing, somewhere over probably 25 minutes long. We were talking about potentially putting 1 or 2 more orders from a nursery in to get some plant material. And I've definitely been looking, that's even why I looked for the black cherry today, earlier this morning, to see if we had any rootstock for the Capulan cherries, and unfortunately we didn't. And I'll say this again, sometimes I kind of make a liar out of myself, because we're kind of going through the thought process on video with you guys when we're doing the vlogs and other life stuff. And, at the time, I'm just throwing out thoughts, what I'm thinking about, what I'm planning or may not be planning at the time. But it's, one of the things that I had an issue with doing persimmon grafts last year was that the rootstock was very kind of growing not straight and it's kind of stiff. I definitely think it was an issue, possibly an issue with, even though having paraffin on there, wrapping it 2 or 3 times, it just may not have been able to hold the scion wood, where you're grafting onto the rootstock, to give it that cambium layer contact, versus, when there's some kind of drying out or something going on where it's like separating that wood. And I know some people use like metal wire to time. A lot of people use rubber bands or some kind of rubber strips. I think I've even seen some people use bread ties, but we've never tried that. So I wonder if I'm kind of rethinking that decision of possibly getting some more persimmon rootstock that is ready to graft. I'm wondering if using some rubber strips or something would actually help, get better success rates. Not even just that, but possibly with loquats, even more successes with mulberries, even though we have a pretty okay success rate with the mulberries. There is possibly also a factor of getting rootstock and scion wood that are both dormant versus having rootstock that is coming out of dormancy and putting dormant scion wood on it. Is that an issue with most people? I don't know. Do we purchase rootstock and then plant it in a pot and wait a few weeks or month or however long for it to push new leaves out and then purchase scion wood? Or do we just put the scion wood in the refrigerator for a few weeks or a month? I definitely remember someone telling me that, mulberries graft even now, and potentially plums and a few others, because they are temperate zoned plants. And Asian persimmons would probably be considered temperate zone too, although American persimmons go from temperate to pretty super cold zone ranges. Or well, it is another day, and last night I just ordered some rubber grafting strips. Never ordered from this website, Fedco Seeds, I believe it's called. $12.50. You get a quarter pound of them, so like over 100 supposedly, to potentially use for future grafting experiments for mulberries, loquats, or whatever. I am trying to figure out what we're going to do as far as potential plant material orders and try to strategize, because I've kind of come up with a rough estimate of what I needed to get these 2 orders done, and it's quite a bit of money, so maybe I need to tamper that down or whatever, if that's the right term. Dampen my expectations. I think it was like $200 or more for the ones that have all these mulberries and figs that the other one doesn't have, and it was probably around probably slightly less than $200 order from Fruitwood Nursery. So I got to make some adjustments. Probably don't easily have $350-$400 to do these 2 orders, and plus get materials. I think I need some plant tags and a few other things, probably some potting soil or peat moss or a combination of them. And I've almost talked myself out of placing the order for Fruitwood Nursery until January, because I'll have more money then. But they just recently released their cutting scion wood and stuff inventory, so a lot of things, or some things that I may have on my radar right now, may be gone. Now in January, when they start shipping them, I think they will readjust their estimated inventory, so you may have some things pop up with more inventory, or you may just lose it for the season. I think most of the loquat scion wood at Fruitwood Nursery that I had my eye on is already gone, so possibly already missed our chance, or maybe they'll release more cuttings throughout the season. I am not sure. So far, let's also talk about figs. This nursery that has all these figs, they're just cuttings or scion wood, and I've had a very mixed success rate, probably in the low success rate range with a lot of the figs. I've had some just root just fine, put 2 in there and 2 root. I've had a few where you put 2, 3, 5 and nothing roots, like that Deanna fig. I've tried to root it over and over again. For whatever reason, it just hasn't wanted to root for me. Some of them we only had like 1 chance, like Ronde Bordeaux, because I didn't have a lot of plant material. It failed. And a few others failed, and then a few others didn't. So I got to come to, the realization of just grabbing 10 or 15 figs and spending a bunch of money on those cultivars, those cuttings. We're probably going to have the same thing, potentially low success rate. So maybe I need to focus on rooting a bunch of those Celeste figs as rootstock for grafting. And, maybe we'll have a much better success rate that way. I think I've gathered most of the plants I'm going to get rid of. I may even do it in 2 phases, 2 trips. I've been trying to make sure everything has labels. So we've been labeling everything that doesn't have them. We got quite a bit of stuff here, probably at least 2 wagon loads as far as radio flyer wagon loads. So there's about half the stuff there. We were thinking about doing maybe Okinawa spinach, longevity spinach, but I've sort of just said, just don't worry about it. So as I said, we may do a half or 2/3 in this first giveaway, and then more later. I'm still kind of paying attention to Fruitwood Nursery and their stock, and a lot of their stock is going fast. I think most of their loquats are gone, like coffee cake persimmon, that's one I was considering. They only have 15 left. I think they had a bunch a week ago. Chocolate persimmon, I do not think they had a whole lot to begin with. A lot of these guys are definitely sold out or low stock. They got a lot of the Honan red Asian persimmons, but kind of just looking and seeing that there isn't, if I wait till next month or 2, probably going to miss out. I think that, by the time I can afford 2 orders or a second order, half of the stuff I have on my list will be gone, if not more. I mean, but I really can't justify trying to get 2 orders in. I just don't think I can afford it at all. So I make the decision of whether I want like rare mulberries and make that a big focus of this coming season, or do some other things. Like everything is cool, everything's experimental. Anything you have success with, you builds up your permaculture, farmstead, whatever you want to call it. I guess maybe the other option would be to do a smaller order of just the mulberries and stuff that I want from the other place, and go ahead and do like a regular order at Fruitwood Nursery. But I really don't know what I'm going to do. I'm definitely leaning toward just doing the bigger order of the mulberries and some rare fig cuttings, even though I don't have the best luck with figs, rooting a lot of them. So I guess we'll just end it here, because I don't know what our next step is. Take care, guys.